Chaf Aleph. Chaf Aleph, Amid Aleph. And the line starts with the word Abba. We're going to start with Amar Rab Yirmiyah Barab Amarab. Let's see. It's about 16, 17 lines down. In my old Gemara, it's directly across the decorated line above the Agay Sabach. The last word on the line is Amar. Amar Rab Yirmiyah Barab Amarav. Rab Yirmiyah Barabba is a student of Rav. He says in the name of Rav, Ein Borgen in Bebava. There's no huts in Bavel. What he means by this is that there's a certain amount of area you're allowed to walk outside a city, 2,000 amas or 3 parsais. But where's the end of the city? So the end of the city is after the last houses. Let's say there's some huts that the watchmen use outside the city. So the city continues to those huts. So he says, Rabbi Yirmiyah Barba says, those huts don't exist in Bavel. Why don't those huts exist in Bavel? We're going to see soon. See, it has to do with flooding. We also don't have this halacha that you're allowed to enclose a well in Chutz La'aretz. Now, the enclosing of a well was only done for Eile Regel, people that were going to the Beis Hamikdash. Apparently, it also exists for people that were doing any mitzvah, which means going to yeshiva. So, in Chutz La'aretz, they didn't have yeshivas. Now, there's 3 stages here. There's Eretz Yisrael, there's Bavel, and then there's Chutz La'aretz. Bavel is like in the middle. So it's like people would say today, there's Yerushalayim, there's Lakewood, and there's the rest of the world. No, they used to say with Monsey. They used to say that. Crown Heights, I should say. So, so you don't have this in Chutz La'aretz. Borgen in Bavel, why are there no huts in Bavel, the Shchichi Bidke? Because there's flooding. And flooding would wash away the huts. They wouldn't be able to stay there. Pasi Birais b'Chutz La'aretz, why are there no Pasi Birais, no enclosures of wells? Pasi Birais b'Chutz La'aretz, lie. Why not? So he says, because you don't have the Mesifta. Mesifta is the same word as yeshiva. Like this time, because the taf in the shin. Mesifta is yeshivta, Mesifta. It's the taf in the shin switch, and it just means to sit. That's what you're supposed to do in yeshiva. You're supposed to sit in your seats. You're supposed to learn. However, the opposite there is, which means that in Bavel you do have Pasi Birais. You do have enclosures of wells because there are yeshivas. And when someone is going to yeshiva and he needs water for his animals, so on Shabbos you can enclose a well with those water for his animals on Shabbos. So you can enclose the well before Shabbos to be able to have them. Ikad Amri, there are those that say Rabbi Yirmiyah Barabba Amarav, in Borgen Pasi Birais Bavel Chutz La'aretz. You don't have either. You don't have the huts to extend the city, and you don't have the Pasi Birais. You don't have the enclosures, not in Bavel, not in Chutz La'aretz. Well, why not? This yeshiva's there. Borgenim Bavel, the Shchichi Bidke. You don't have the Borgenim because of the flooding. Okay, that we understood. Chutz La'aretz Namilai. Why don't you have it in Chutz La'aretz, the Shchichi Ganvi? Because there was Ganavim there. And there's robbers, they would steal those huts. So even if they're there, but they're not considered as anything, not considered like houses. Pasi Birais Bavel, why don't you have Pasi Birais Bavel? Why don't you have that there? says the Shchichim Maya because there's enough water that you don't need these wells. To enclose these wells, there's water that they can drink from in Bavel. It's between the rivers, right? They have water. And in Chutzlaris you don't have it because you don't have the yeshivas, and it's only for the people that are going to a mitzvah, which is Eile Regel, or going to yeshiva. Amar le Rav Chisda lemari Breder Rav Huna Breder Rav Yirmiyah Barabba. Rav Chisda says to the grandson of Rav Yirmiyah Barabba, his name was Mari, and he's the son of Rav Huna, the son of Rav Yirmiyah Barabba. He says, Amri, they said that Asisu mi Barnash lebei Knishta de Daniel. Apparently there was an old shul of Daniel in Bavel. It says Daniel was caught davening when they didn't allow that. It was by the window, and they saw him davening. So anyway, that shul would be a place that people would go to visit to daven. It's like the Kaisel. And they told this Mari, Rav Chisda told Mari, apparently you go from Barnash to Beit Knishta de Daniel, to the shul of Daniel. David Tlasa Parsa b'Shabbat, that's 3 parsais on Shabbos. That's a problem. Amaisam Chisu. What are you relying on that you can take such a large walk? A Borganin, because of the huts? Amar Avua da Avua Mishmei da Rabbi, Borganim in Bavel, but your father's father said in the name of Rab that there's no Borganin in Bavel because of the floods. You can't rely on those. You can't walk so far. He went out and he pointed to the ruins that were there, that every 70 amas there was more ruins. He said that those are still considered houses, and that's why I can walk. This is an old area. Early civilizations, they had these old ruins there, and those were still considered huts, even though no one was living in them. And so therefore the city was continuing because of those ruins. Amar Rav Chisda. Chisda says, a page and a half now of Haggadah. Darash Mari Bar Mar. Mari Bar Mar taught, Maidiksiv, what's the meaning of the following pasuk? Chol tichla risi kates. For every purpose, I've seen a limit. However, Rechava mitzvahs chamayid, but your mitzvahs are very broad, very wide. David said this pasuk, but he didn't explain how wide. How large are the mitzvahs? Amar Iev v'lei Pirshu. Iev came, he said it also, and he didn't explain it. Amar Yecheskel v'lei Pirshu. Yecheskel also said the same thing, but he didn't explain. Ad sheba Zechariah ben Idai, till Zechariah ben Idai came, Pirshu, and he said the limit, the measurement. Amr David v'lei Pirshu. What does it mean? David said it. He didn't explain. He said, for every purpose I've seen a limit, but your mitzvahs are very broad, very wide. He didn't explain what it means. How wide? He said it's longer than the earth and it's wider than the sea. But he didn't say how wide. You just know it's wider than the earth and the sea. Yecheskel said that he spread it in front of me, a scroll of the Torah. And it was written on both sides. The Kosav Lakinim was written on it, lamentations, the Hega, melodies, the He, and like woe, and sighs. Kinim, what does it mean, the lamentations that were in the scroll? This is referring to Torah Shabbal Peh that was shown to Yecheskel. This is the suffering that the tzaddikim suffer in this world. It says that it's a lamentation. Behege, what is the melody? This is the reward that they're going to get in the future. We'll see a little bit later about this again. Usually higayin means thoughts. The hegein libi, the thoughts of my heart. the translation of Libi, we translate Libi as heart, but there are those that say Libi actually means the mind in biblical Hebrew. Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky thought like that. He thought that in modern Hebrew it means the heart, but not in biblical Hebrew. Anyway, Hegyain usually means thoughts. Here we're saying Alei Higayin Bechinar sounds like it's some sort of instrument. It's a melody. Vihi, what is Vihi? Vihi is like whoa. It's actually the English word whoa. If the double V, we call it a double U. It was probably originally a double V. We was whoa. This is the suffering of the wicked in the future. That suffering on suffering will come. Okay, so we still don't know what's the limit of the Torah, how wide it is. But in Zechariah it says, the Ksiv, he said, what do you see? And I said, Aniraya, I see Megillah Afa. Afa could mean floating or it could mean folded. I see a floating scroll or a folded scroll. Like a scroll that would be like a scroll that's folded. So Arka is Esrim Ba'ama. Its length is 20 amas. But it's with his 10. Now it's folded or it's floating. So either way, when it opens up, it's double. When you open it up, it's 20 by 20. Okay. And it says that it was written on it on one side and the other side. On both sides it was written on it. Well, if you would spread it out, because it's written on the back, so you would have to you already unfolded it like this. Now you unfold it like that to be able to read both sides. When you peel it off, that means like you unfold, you peel it in half to be able to read both sides. How big is it? Then it's 40 by 20. What's a 40 by 20? It's 800, right? 800 square amas. And it says who can measure with his footsteps water. And the heavens he set up with his zeres. The zeres is a measurement of in between these fingers or in between these fingers. It's supposed to be half an amma. So a half an amma is the heavens. Basically means the world is a half an amma. How big was the scroll that he saw? It was 800. So 800 square ammas. And this is a half amma by a half amma. Half an amma by a half an amma. I'm not sure how to work this out. Nimtza Kalaylam Kulai comes out that the whole world is Echad Mishleshes Alafim Masayim Batayra. Comes out as 1/32. It's 3,200 of the Torah. I'm not sure. I thought I had it worked out before. A half an amma by half an amma is a quarter of an amma by an amma. Does that make sense? Or is that a quarter of an amma by an amma? A half by a half? I guess so.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it comes out that the Torah is 3,200 and the world is just a half by is just a the world is a 3,200th of the Torah. So that's the limit at Rechavim Mitzvah Samayit. That's the measurement that we have. Amar Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda says, Darash Mari Bar Mar taught, same Mari Bar Mar that we just had. My Diksiv, what does it mean? Nishnei Dudoi Te'inim Mayadim Lifnei Hechel Hashem. Says he sees two bowls of figs, Mayadim are ripe, in front of the chamber of Hashem. Hadud Echad Te'inim Tavis. One bowl has nice figs, Tavis Mayad, Ketenia Bachuris, like the ripe figs that they ripen right away. Tasty. And the other one is very bad, very, very bad quality. That you wouldn't even eat it because of how bad it was. What are these nice figs? These are the totally righteous. And the inferior quality, the figs that you won't even eat, these are Rishon Gemurim, these are the totally wicked. Maybe you'll say that maybe they lost their hope. There's nothing left. There's no hope for them. We translated Didoim now as bowls. Didoi Te'inim, bowls. But Didoim also means mandrakes, means like these flowers. The Didoim Nas Nereach, these flowers give off a smell, or the bowls give off a smell. Both of them are going to give off a scent in the future when Mashiach comes. In other words, even the wicked are not lost. Darash Rava. Rava says, "My diksiv hadidoim nas nereach." What's the meaning of this pasuk? Didoim, the mandrakes give off a scent. These are the Jewish men, the young men that have not sinned. There was a song years ago, I think, Joe Amar. There was a problem with singing. You weren't supposed to turn Shir Shirim into love songs, even though the words are words of love, but you weren't supposed to sing it for mundane. It's a Gemara Brachos we had, I think. But for Hashem, you were allowed to, but there was a concern to turn it into songs. There's a Shlomo Kalbach song also, Hashmiini Eskelech. That's also from. Okay, most of it, even though it's very beautiful, but most of our songs are not from Shir. So it says, Va'al Peschenu Kol Megadim. And on our passageways are all the choice fruits, Megadim, our delicacies, choice fruits. These are the daughters of Israel that they say they're Pischei Nida. They say when they're menstruating, they tell their husbands. Lishnachrin, another interpretation, Kol Megadim. What is over here, Megadim, is Magidais, is to say. That was their first pshat. Another pshat is She'oigdais Pischein Lebaleim. They tie their passageway for their husband. It means they don't have relations with anyone else. Chadashim gam yeshanim doidi tzefanti lach. New and old, to my beloved, I have hidden for you. Amar Knesset Yisrael Lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Jewish people say to Hashem, Rebbeinu Shalom, Harbe Gezeres Gazarti El Atzmi, Yesu Masha Gazarti Alai V'kiyamtim. I made more Gezeres on myself more than you've made on me, and I've kept them. That means that the rabbinic laws are more than the biblical laws, and we keep them as well. Amalei Rav Chisda L'Umad Rabbanan. Rav Chisda told this one student, "Avika Masader Agadata Kamei." The student was arranging Agadata, the teachings of the interpretations of the verses. Have you heard the interpretation What is the meaning of new and old in this pasuk? It says, Amalei Elam mitzvahs kalas ve'elam mitzvahs chamuras. Those are the light mitzvahs and those are the hard mitzvahs. It says, one second, Amalei v'chitera pa'amim nitna. Was the Torah given in stages? Hard ones and then easy ones, or easy ones and then hard ones. What's going on over there? It says, Ella halala midivrei Torah v'halala midivrei seifrim. No, it's biblical and rabbinic. That's the stages. The new ones are the rabbinic laws. Okay, Darash Rava. Yeah, a lot of people are concerned that the rabbinic laws become very strict. As the generations gets on, they say it's like a trend to get more and more strict. But apparently, Kabbalistically, there's reasons for that. So as we get closer to Mashiach, different refinement, things, different sparks, that's how it has to work. And more than them, my son, be careful of many books, of making many books. Yeshemihema is going back on the pasuk before that says, it's referring to Torah. It's a pasuk in Kayalas. Be careful of many books is going to be the rabbinic laws. It says like this: be careful with rabbinic law even more than biblical law. Because in biblical law you have positive commandments and negative commandments. But in rabbinic law, anyone that violates the words of the Seifrim is deserving of a death penalty. No, it's not really so. It says, Yishchenu nachash. Kapiritz geder, someone that breaks a fence, Yishchenu nachash, should be bitten by a snake. The Rama quotes it sometimes when he quotes rabbinic law. He says, anyone that violates this, Yishchenu nachash. You know, he says it in Nida once, he says it about the 5 days, I think. So, Shemataymar, you can ask an interesting question. If they're really so significant, so why weren't they written down? So Amar Kra says Svarim Harbi and Kates make many books without any limit. That means it would be impossible to write all of the explanations of the Torah that are written, that are told over in the Torah Shebal Peh would be infinite. You can't have so much. Usually, most of us understand that the Torah Shebiksav needs a commentary. And the commentary is the Torah Shebal Peh. That's normally how it's understood. Shamshin Raphael Hirsch had it the other way. He said that the Torah Shebal Peh is what the Eibishter said. And the Torah Shebiksav is the notes that the student wrote in the class. The notes are always shorter than the full lesson. So it has like this opposite approach to it. Okay. You have to hear the recording. That's what it is. Torah Shebal Peh is the recording. And the Torah Shebiksav is the notes. The lag harbe yigias basar. A lot of study is a toil of the flesh. Amar Rav Papa Bereder Ravacha bar Ada Mishmeder Ravacha bar Ula. Rav Papa, the son of Ravacha bar Ada, in the name of Ravacha bar Ula, he says, this teaches us anyone that laughs at the words of the sages is judged with boiling excrement. I checked in the Steinsaltz to see if there was a missing comments here. I was expecting it to be Gemara's cut out of like who this is referring to or something, but I didn't see anything. So, Maskefla Rav asked a question. Miksiv lag. It says lag. He read it, he interpreted it as lag with an ayin. But it actually says lahag. It says with a hey. It's not a ah, it's a hey. So la hagsiv, it's the opposite. It's not a negative. It's a positive. Anyone that toils in them, thinks about them, contemplates. The words of the sages, Toyim Tam Basar, will taste the flavor of meat. Yes, Basar. It's like the toil of the flesh. It means this constant flavor that comes from the when you think over the words of the sages. Yeah, they said that someone wants to buy a present for his wife. So we asked her, what would you like? So she says, I'd like a new dishwasher or something. So he says, okay, fine. Anyway, it's her birthday, he gets the dishwasher. Then another person wants to buy a present for his wife. She's always complaining. I wish I had a dishwasher. So he knows what she wants, so he buys her a dishwasher. Then there's another person. His wife never even complained, but she's always there washing the dishes. So she never even saw a dishwasher. She didn't even think about it. She says, dishwasher would be good. He gets a dishwasher. So they said that this is comparable to Deraisis, Derabbanans, and Minhag. Deraisa, it says clearly in the Torah. So we fulfill it. It says, he asked for a dishwasher. We get it. Okay, that's very nice. Then the other one is, he didn't actually ask us, but the rabbis told us what Hashem wants. So we do it. So, but then there's the minhag. Minhag is that it's not that Hashem said. And the rabbis didn't even tell us. It's just that we understand on our own what would really be appropriate. And that's the Tanur Rabbanan studying a Braisa, Maisa Rabbi Akiva. This is a famous story. Rabbi Akiva Sheikhavish Beis Hashem was in prison. I assume it's the prison for teaching Torah. But your Rabbi Shua Garsi, Rabbi Shua Garsi is either he comes from the place Garsi, or he would grind beans. Grease him our split beans. He was serving him. Rabbi Shua Garsi was serving Rabbi Akiva. I guess he would come to bring him what he needed. He would bring him a measurement of water every day. One day, the guard finds him. You have a lot of water today. Maybe you're using it to dig out of the prison. He poured half of it out. Comes to Rabbi Akiva. Don't you know I'm an old man? My life is dependent on you. You bring me half the water. I only have what you bring me. He told him what happened. He says, give me the water, I want to wash my hands. You don't have enough to drink, you're going to use it to wash your hands. What should I do? There's a death penalty if I don't wash my hands. It's better that I should die from my own causes and not from violating the words of my friends, which is the decree to wash your hands before you eat bread. Amru, they said, he didn't taste anything until they brought him water. Then he washed his hands. When the sages heard this, Amru, they said, if when he was older, that's how strict he was. When he was younger, for sure, he was strict. Now, he can't be very young, because when he was very young, he wasn't observant, apparently. So it means when he was younger, he lived 120 years. If he's in prison, so when he wasn't in prison, for sure he was strict. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Rabbi Yehuda says the name of Shmuel, B'shasha Tikkun Shleima Eiruvin and Atilas Yadayim. Shleima Melech instituted Eiruvin and Atilas Yadayim. Yatsa Baskel V'amra, a voice of heaven from heaven came out and says, B'nei, if your heart is wise, your mind is wise. Yismach libi gamani, my heart will also rejoice. And it also says, Chacham b'ni yismach libi, b'shivachar fidavar. My son is wise, my heart rejoices, and I will respond to those that taunt me. So, Netilas Yadayim was instituted for Taharas, so that grain or food that's pure should be kept pure, because there was a decree that hands are considered shniyas, considered secondary impurity. And for Taharas, for Truma, you could reach a shlishi, so it could contaminate the Truma. And Eiruvin was that even in an enclosed area, but if there was more than one family that lived there, you had to join food together to do that. We spoke about this at the Siyam, for Shabbos, that the great wisdom in this was the combination of both. That until Sidayim make separations between people. Everyone has their own standards. This one's a chaver, this one's not a chaver. And Eiruvin means that everyone is together. It's the combination, the balance. That takes the wisdom. Darash Rava Maidik Siv, Rava taught what is the meaning of the pasuk. L'chadaydi, come, my beloved. Neitzi Asad, let's go out to the field. And Nalina B'Kfarim will lodge in the villages. Nashkim L'Kramim will wake up early, we'll go to the vineyards. Nira will see in Parcha Geffen if the vine has blossomed. Pasach HaSmadar, if the smothers, those first grapes, those they're very, very small, right after the blossom falls off. Hinatzu Arimayim, if the pomegranates are flowering. Sham etin estedilach, there I'll give my love to you. Now he explains what this pasuk means. Come, my beloved, let's go out to the field. The Jewish people say to Hashem, Master of the world, don't look at me, don't judge me like the people that live in the cities. There's a lot of corruption. There's robbery, immorality, false oaths, or oaths in vain. But come out to the field. Over there, you see the Torah sages that are studying Torah in difficult situations. That's in the field. Nalina B'Kfarim will lodge in the villages. Altikri B'Kfarim ela B'Kaifrim. Not the villages, talking about deniers. What does he want to do? He wants to make a contrast here. It says, let me show you the people that you did so much good to, but they still deny you, which is the nations of the world, that Hashem gave them so much in this world, but they still deny Hashem. I have on the side of my Gemara, it says, Zari Shalesev. I didn't see it in the Steinsaltz study. That usually has the corrected from the manuscripts. The descendants of Esav. Usually they translate Rome as the descendants of Esav as Edom, which is usually translated as Christianity. Even though the Ibn Ezra disagrees with that. He doesn't attribute Edom to Rome. He says the wrong side. Doesn't fit. Nashkim L'Kramim will wake up, will get up early to the vineyards. Ilabati Kniyas Abati Midrashis. These are the shuls in the base medrash.
The 530 warriors.
Yeah, we'll see more about that in soon. Nirem Parcha Geffen, let's see if the vine has blossomed. Elu Bali Mikra is the people that study Chumash. That's the first step. That's the blossoming of the vine. Pasach Hasmadar, if the flowers, the blossoms have fallen off, and now there's that original early grape, Elu Bali Mishnah, that's the next level. It's the people that study Mishnah. If the pomegranates are flowering, now Rashi explains that it doesn't mean the flowering of the pomegranates. It means that the flower of the pomegranate is full. I guess it means that it's fully ripe. Elu Bali Gemara, that's the people that study the Gemara. And that means they've already studied the Mishnah. Now they're already doing comparisons, one Mishnah to another. There I will give my love to you. Erech kvaidi begoidli shvach banei b'nai say. There you will see the greatness, the praise of the sons and daughters. Amar Rav Hamnuna, Maidik Siv Rav Hamnuna. So what's the meaning of the pasuk? Vayidaber shleishes alafim mashal, that he spoke 3,000 parables. He shiri chamishim v'alaf, and his song is 1,005. V'lamid shamar shleimal called davar shal Torah shleishes alafim mashal. This tells us that Shlomo Melech said 3,000 mishalim for every part of the Torah. Called davar shal seifrim, and everything of the sages. Chamisha v'elef taimim, 1,005 reasons. 1,005 is a funny number. I'm not sure exactly what it's referring to. I didn't see the commentaries, but it sounds like a yar and a mitvach. They have that expression. Yar and a mitvach is a year and a Wednesday, which may have meant the time before a marriage. They waited a year, and then they would get married on a Tuesday night. A yar mit a mitvach. So 1,005. What's 1,005? Darash Rava taught Maidiksiv Yoser and more. Shaya Kehelis Chacham. That Kehelis is wise. Kehelis is another name for Shlomo. He also taught knowledge to the people, easing. He weighed Bechike. He sought out Tikkun Mashalim Harbe. He taught many parables. Yeah, in the Chassidus explains the parables that when you have a concept, it can't be understood. You have to give an example for it. You give an example, it's understood. But if that's still too high, you have to give an example for the example. So, and that could work its way down till 3,000 times. So Shlomo Melech was able to give 3,000 examples to be able to reach that high intellect. Limidas, what does it mean? He taught knowledge to the people. Dagmrei b'simani taimim. He taught how to read the scriptures, and also the Mishnah. That means the trap, and how to pause and when you recite the Mishnah. And he explained it with things that are similar to it. Somehow, when we have similarities, that helps us understand. It's, because we know things similar, so that helps us. It helps us accept new ideas when we say, "Oh, it's similar to that." Oh, okay, it's similar to that. Okay, it's acceptable. So the Izin v'chikr Tikkun Mashalim Harbe, he weighed and he sought out and he instituted many parables. Amar Ula. Ula says, Amar Rabbi Lazar, the name of Rabbi Lazar. Originally the Torah was like a basket that didn't have handles. It was very difficult to hold. Shlomo came and he put handles on it. So he made it understandably able to carry it. Kitsaisav taltalim. Kitsaisav is locks. Taltalim are wavy. His hair is wavy. Amar Rav Chizda, Amar Mar Ukva. Rav Chizda says name of Mar Ukva. Malamed sheishlidus al kol kaitz v'kaitz tilim shel halachas. This teaches us that on every kaitz and every marking, every thorn, every marking on the letters, you have to learn tili tilim, mounds and upon mounds of halachas. Tal talim. It's wavy means that mounds and mounds of halachas from each thorn. Shechiris kairev, blackened like a raven. B'miyat ha'maitzan, where do you find the Torah? B'mishamashkim amar v'leim levis medrash. Here you have 5:30 Warriors. You see, shechiris kairev, blackened like a raven. Shachiris is shachris, kairev is arbus. That's what it's learning. Rabba Amar b'mishamashka panam v'leim kairev. That's someone that darkens his face because of through fasting. Someone gets dehydrated. You see it like beneath the eye, I think. They turns darker. His face gets darkened like a raven. Raven is black. Rav Amar b'mishamesim atzmach al banav al b'nei beisikar. Someone that makes himself cruel to his family, like a raven. Very harsh. It says the raven doesn't raise the children, they just fly away, just leave them. Kihada Ravada Bar Masna, because of the Rav, Ravada Bar Masna went to the yeshiva of Rav, Amrle the Bisu. He said to his wife, his wife said to him, what am I going to do about the children? There are no more vegetables in the garden. Because he was going away, but he left her without income. He said, well, it's probably, kurmi are probably like herbs that are not like, it's not like really grain, but they're like wild things that you could probably eat them when you're starving, but this wasn't like, anyway. Sometimes they give you these tours in the park. They said, this is edible, that's edible. So, but does it taste good? They say, no, it doesn't taste good. It tastes like a shoe. But when you're starving, it's edible. So, okay. Mishalim l'seinav al panav, and he pays those that hate him on their face. La'avide, to destroy them. Amr Rabbi Shua ben Levi says, Mali Mikra Kasev, if the pasuk didn't say this, Yef Shalem, we wouldn't be able to say it ourselves. This is like God is carrying on his face a load and he's trying to get it off. That's what it is when he's trying to repay the wicked. Just wants to get it off, like impatient. He doesn't delay to those that hate him. Amr Ila says, the sign of Hudlayachir, to those that hate him, he doesn't delay. But he delays to the righteous. It means that the wicked get their punishment right away, but the tzaddikim don't get their reward right away. That's interesting. Rabbi Shua ben Levi, this is what Rabbi Shua ben Levi says, what's the meaning of the pasuk, that I command you today to do? You do that, you fulfill them today, but you can't fulfill them tomorrow. In other words, only in this world can you perform mitzvahs. In this world, you perform the mitzvahs, but tomorrow, in the next world, that's where you receive the reward. What does it mean, erech apayim? Erech apayim means patient. Erech is long, and apayim is faces. It means that he's patient. I heard from Rabbi Ginsburg that apayim actually means nostrils. And it means long breaths. It's associated with wisdom. As opposed to emotions would be short breaths. Ze'er anpin, or short nostrils. Erech apayim, it's long nostrils, like long breaths. So, erech af v'bailei, it should say af, long, singular, it should have it. I don't know exactly the translation. Ela erech apayim, what does it mean? The plural, l'tzadikim erech. Ela erech apayim l'tzadikim erech apayim l'rishon. Rather, he's patient for the righteous to get their reward, and he's patient also for the wicked to get their punishment. they don't always get punished right away. This is not like what we said before, that the wicked get punished right away. Okay, back to work. Now we have back to Eiruvin. Rabbi Yehuda Beis Asayim. Rabbi Yehuda says that when you have Pasi Birais, when you have the measurement around the well, let me bring it up. Let me bring it up on the screen. Should have the picture here.
On page 50.
Okay, let's see if I can get to that. Not bad. Okay, those we're looking at the books, the Zeres. Okay, here we're looking at the well. They made a square well. And Rabbi Yehuda says that the limit of how big this area could be is a Beis Asayim, which is 100 by 50, which is not really 75 by 75. It's 70 and 2/3 by 70 and 2/3. So that's how big this area could be for that you can make this enclosure with only using corners. You don't really have a full wall, which is different than all of the rest of Hilchos Shabbos and Erev. So Yibaylu, the yeshiva had a question. Baru pasen kamer, baru pasen kamer. What's the limit that he's saying? You see, the bar upasen would mean that including the area that's 2 amas to each side. 2 amas to each side. That's the area that goes around the well. Is it including those 2 amas? That's the Beis Asayim, or is it without the 2 amas, or is it the bar itself that's the limit? Okay, what's our concern? The concern is that there's certain areas that can't be enclosed, that they can't be marked off with an Eruv, because they're not made for living in. Carpet used for wood storage. There's no houses there or something. So there's a concern. When we look at this, we say, oh, you're allowed to make an Eruv over this area. That would be similar to a karfif. Now, a karfif you can't if it's too large, but if it's smaller, then you can. So what are we going to look at and assume, oh, this is just like the karfif? So Adam person looks at the well, we don't make a gzeira that he's going to start to carry more than a Beis Asayim, more than 50 by 100 in a karfif, in the wood storage area. Or do we say that a person is going to look at the area around the well? Because and we'll say that, well, he's going to compare that to a Beis Asayim. In other words, do you have to include those other 2 amas in this? According to Rabbi Yehuda. So Tashma, Kamalas and Kamei Mikuravim, how close can they be? They reach Rubishal Para? 2 amas. They headed in most of the body of the cow. Kamei Meruchakim, how distant can they be? Afilu Kurva, Afilu Kurayim, could be 30, so much larger than the limit that we just gave. Rabbi Yehuda Beis Asayim, what do Yesim Beis Asayim also? No, there's a limit only up to a Beis Asayim. Amle Rabbi Yehuda at Maida Bedir Vesar Muktzah V'Chatzar Afilu Beis Chamish Kurim. What about these enclosures? You're allowed to do that with these enclosures. These are pens. So is this different? That's a mechitza, but these are slats. Reb Shimon ben Elazar Eimer, bar Beis Asayim, a Beis Asayim mutter. If there's a pit that's a Beis Asayim by a Beis Asayim, it's in both directions. They only said that you have to distance the amount to the pasin is 2 amas. Midikam Reb Shimon ben Elazar bar v'lei pasin. Reb Shimon Elazar says that it's the well, which is the base of Sayim, not the enclosure. That means that Rabbi Yehuda holds that it's the bar and the pasuk, that it's the enclosure as well. It goes into the status of the base of Sayim. The Gemara says, "V'lohi, it's not so." Rabbi Yehuda bar b'lei pasim kamer. Rabbi Yehuda was talking also about the bar, not the bar pasim. What's the machlekes? Rabbi Shimon Elazar said that it's both goes ways 100 amas in each direction. Rabbi Yehuda didn't say that. Any area which is used for dwelling, if you dwell in there, then wonderful. If it's used for dwelling, then there's no limit. You can have a huge mansion with areas, that's fine. However, but if it's not made for living in, it's just made for outdoors, it's just like a hut. It's just there for shade or for outdoors areas. Then it can only be up to a base of sign. I'll leave it at that.